It's going to be a great day. Welcome to another episode of Alter Eagle. Hello, and welcome to this season of Alter Eagle. We are starting season 1 with the topic of addiction in Butler County. Conversations on the physical side of addiction, trauma, the neuroscience, mental health, and stigma surrounding addiction. Experts, resources, and stories from people who have fought addiction head on. I am your host, Laura Krigo. Let's keep the conversation going. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. For a long time, I suffered with depression and anxiety. I had tried therapy before, but struggled finding a therapist I connected with until I found BetterHelp. That's why I am so excited to share BetterHelp's mission to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, because finding a therapist can be hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online. Remote therapy sessions, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. Click the link in description and receive 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. And by clicking that link, you support this channel. Plus, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. I was struggling for a long time, and BetterHelp was where I found my therapist, Whitney, who I still see weekly for almost 2 years now. So, if you're struggling like I was, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in description or go to betterhelp.com/alter eagle. That's betterhelp.com/alter eagle. There's no better time than now to start your mental health journey. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. This episode is brought to you by R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated, Robert Stevens Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for your support on our first season of the Alter Eagle podcast. Be sure to click the link in bio for your discount for BetterHelp Therapy online. 10% off your first month. Welcome. So today I am sitting down with Mary and Jessica from Trilogy Wellness here in Butler. Mary is the CRS supervisor at Trilogy Wellness, and she's coming up on 2 years this August.
2 years?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jessica is executive director. She started with Trilogy in Butler in 2022, which was a little over 2 years ago. I believe they started at the beginning of the year. She was also part of opening all 6 centers in Western PA. Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So we met a while ago at Cummings and sat down, met these 2 ladies. Mary called me. I just got a message from you one day, and you're like, hey, you wanted to come on and talk about Trilogy. So we're sitting down today. Their website, we've got a Facebook, and they also have a .org. So those will all be in the body of the caption here. So you can check out those links. Please do that after you listen to this episode. But I want to start out first with, their bios, telling a little bit more about what they do, who they are, and also why they do it. So we're going to start with Mary first.
Oh, great. I'm a CRS. I supervise the CRS. I'm the supervisor. I supervise the care coordinators and the CRSs for the offices. My passion for recovery is because I, too, am in recovery. September the 7th made 12 years for me. I'm very proud of that recovery. I am determined to attempt to save as many lives with harm reduction as possible, because I'm at the age where I'm questioning myself of what will people remember about me. Mm-hmm. And I want them, whether they remember my name, I want them to remember my face. That lady tried. And that's, I know what they go through. I know the life they live, and I know the looks they're given. And I was a nurse for many years. I worked with some good people. I was respected in my field. And when you don't have that anymore and you become an addict, is the term I'll use, people look at you differently.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's come up. I wanted to ask you about that is a lot of people are unaware of how we need to change our language
Absolutely.
when we are talking to people who are in recovery or someone who has been a substance abuser, right?
Right.
And even saying addict, you know, calling someone an addict or...
I don't like that.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
It has a negative connotation to it for whatever, right?
It absolutely does.
So,
I had a substance use disorder.
yeah. Yes.
And it was awful. And everything that I cared about in a matter of months was gone. My career, I didn't speak with my children, my family. I lost my home. Everything.
Yeah. But look at you now.
Look at me now.
I mean,
Can't
that blue.
stop me now.
I'm telling you, that blue is your color.
You like it?
Yeah, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like peach on me, but hey, I'll
Yeah,
take it.
I like the blue. And then with the pink, she has a pin on that says, I carry Narcan.
Everywhere I go.
I do too now.
Good for you.
I do too now. I actually, it's interesting because the other day I was packing like a smaller purse I went up to a friend's dance recital. She owns a dance studio where we used to teach in college. And I threw the Narcan in my purse.
Right.
Because I mean, yeah, I know I'm going to a kid's dance recital, but listen, I don't know. What if I'm driving down the street and...
I walked into a McDonald's in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I'd taken my grandchildren out to eat. There was a lady. We couldn't get the door open. And I pushed hard enough on it because I'm that person. I'm going in. Mm-hmm. And all I could see was feet and legs. So I pushed as hard to get in there and yelled for my oldest granddaughter, grab me some Narcan. She knew it was in the trunk of my car. Keep a case in the trunk of my car.
Wow.
And I hit her 8 times before the ambulance got there with Narcan.
No, I've heard that it doesn't always just take one, but
no,
eight.
8 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and you continue to do that. And there's a new way now to do Narcan that a lot of people, because of xylazine, that people aren't aware of. You also, on top of hitting them up the nose with the Narcan, the spray, it's push it and it's up there. You do the sternum rub, but you have to do rescue breathing.
You have to do rescue breaths, yes.
You absolutely do. And because we don't know what they've used. Is it xylazine, which is not an opioid, and Narcan will not stop that from
that's one of the
you.
biggest problems right now that's popping up is xylazine. And
it is.
You don't know until you administer Narcan what they're on. You can't, you don't know what
you don't
someone
know what's
has
in it.
Unless someone is with them. But is xylazine something that's being used to like lace certain drugs, or are people willingly, knowingly? But are people willingly and knowingly taking xylazine?
Some,
okay.
Most are not.
Okay.
I've only had a couple of people out of all 7 offices tell me that they are knew it was xylazine. Most do not know.
So if someone is overdosing on xylazine, the Narcan's not going to work. So when the paramedics arrive, like, do you know what can they do?
Put the bamboo bag on them. Start the oxygen themselves.
Yeah.
Breathe for them till they get them to the hospital.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Sharing your why. All right, Miss Jessica.
Hello.
Hello. Talk to us. Tell us who you are.
Talk to us.
So I started working at Trilogy for personal reasons. You know, I wanted to give back to the community. I have a lot of family that has been in recovery and a lot of family that has not. They had an opioid use disorder or a substance use disorder and they didn't make it out. So it's very close to my heart. I wish that there were places like ours for my family to go to, especially back when only methadone clinics were the thing. That was the thing to do. You go to the
Yeah.
methadone clinic.
That was it.
And that was it. So I really wish that office-based opioid treatment programs like ours were available. And that's why I do this.
Yeah, it's not easy what you do, what either one of you do. And any given day, you could have someone walk in who's probably at the lowest point of their life, right?
We do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's what I've heard from all of our resources. And I think we are very fortunate to be here in Butler County because I think we're really like,
Yeah.
you know, we're
Yes.
like, you know, like fighting the fight. I don't
We
know why
are.
I'm
Yeah,
like doing
we are.
this, but yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, there's
We are.
great resources
There's
here.
great resources,
Right.
and you know the recovery center just opened up. There's just a lot of things, and I'm learning a lot about this. I lived away from Butler for a really long time, so coming back to Butler, and now I'm working here and diving headfirst into a podcast, and it's like, let's talk about something we really need to be talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
7 offices, Center of Excellence, offer case management, MAT, which we've talked about, but we're going to talk about that again. CRS, peer support services, harm reduction, and you accept all insurances.
Yeah. Even if you don't have insurance, come in and we'll help you get insurance.
Absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, I guess that was one of my questions too, is that if someone comes to you and you realize they don't have insurance and you've already kind of started the intake process, is there a bit of does that create more obstacles, you know, in getting them covered? So, because I'll be honest, the insurance is something that I am trying to dig a little bit more into when it comes to
we get on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there was ever like, well, you know, they came in, they didn't have insurance. So technically, I just didn't know if there was like a fine line there, you know, for them getting coverage. But that's great that you can do that. A lot of times it's people not knowing how to be able to do that themselves. And
Right. Or not having the resource to do it at home. And
absolutely.
we got it.
Yes. If someone wasn't trying to figure out how do I get health insurance, could say, hey, you could actually go into Trilogy Wellness. They offer that peer support, care management.
Right.
Okay.
Because we treat the entire person. They don't have to get the medication to be a part of our COE.
Okay.
We can help set them up in housing, give them referrals for food, clothing, places to go. We can do all that.
You read my mind. That was literally where I was going to
Yeah.
go next. So talk about all of that a little bit more in depth.
Well, that's what our care managers do. When you first say you're a new patient, you first come in. Of course, we do a toxicology on all patients. We want to see where they're at, their levels or whatever. But then they go to care management. And this is Medicaid patients only, Medicaid patients. And I assume that's what you're talking about, people that don't have insurance or we're going to help get insurance. Mm-hmm. And say they just got out of jail, they have nowhere to go. We can give them referrals to housing. There's a couple of men housing state houses here in the community that just opened recently. We can send them to Catholic Charities because that's where you go for the emergency housing, or we can send them to CCR because that's longer term, and if there are funds available, because we never know when funds are coming in and out of the community. Mm-hmm. When the funds are available, CCR can help them with those. We can also set them up with the food banks, help them find transportation, the A&R here in town. Mm-hmm. They'll bring them to and from the appointments because it is considered a medical appointment. But most of the time when they do come into us, they're coming into us because they need the first time they need all that help.
Okay.
All that help.
Yeah.
Medication included because they're struggling.
Mm-hmm. Majority of new patients need all of the extra assistance, but that's not the case all the time.
Right.
We have I pulled the statistics previously, but about half, if not a little over half of our patients are already stable. So you don't have to come to us in need. You could come to us as a stable patient just needing to further your recovery. So care managers also help with getting you higher education. Do you need to get more schooling?
Absolutely.
Do you need to go to a trade school? Do you need help resume building or getting a job? How do you apply for jobs? Our care managers can do that as well. So it's not just about the beginning stages of recovery, but the whole process. So making sure that you're advancing throughout.
We have a lot of stable patients.
We do.
Amazing. We did talk about that briefly last time that we met, and how communicative they are with you, right? If they feel, if they're on that monthly shot, right? If they start to feel that they're getting to that place where they can push it just a little bit farther, maybe to 5 weeks, maybe to 6 weeks. And that's got to make someone feel good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel like they're progressing.
Absolutely.
When they're like, you know what, actually I feel good. Let's see. But also listening to their bodies and trusting their bodies and how they're feeling. And if they have that moment, they're like, okay, time to go in. That's great. That's part of it, right? You're accepting of everyone, meeting them where they are. That's a huge topic. We talk about that. Everybody says that. And I love that. I love that that's like the thing. It's like you're meeting them where they're at.
Yeah.
Empathy versus sympathy.
Big one. Sympathy can actually harm a patient recovery. Empathy. I can understand. I can relate to what you're telling me. I absolutely can. But I don't sit and cry with them. I have to stay professional. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely want them to know I understand exactly what you're talking about, how you're feeling, where you're at right now. I get it. I've been there. I understand this. Mm-hmm. And that's a big one in this field, empathy versus sympathy. We have monthly classes that I teach to all staff, and we just had one a couple months back, empathy versus sympathy, because some people don't understand the difference between. And I have to remind myself sometimes, step back. Mm-hmm. You're sympathizing, step back. Get that professional role back on, because they're looking to you. They want that empathy, that you know what they're feeling and you understand it, but they want to know that you know how to handle this. Mm-hmm. They have to know that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the difference. And it's a hard one sometimes because we're human and we catch ourselves. I'm sympathizing with this person and I'm thinking, oh no, stop right there. You could cause harm. Not that I want to not sympathize with them, but I have to not cause harm. I have to still stay professional. I tell everybody the best feeling when I go home at night is, how did I make them feel during the day? I try to tell everyone that walks through that door, it doesn't matter to me how good they look and how good recovery's working for them. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. If you've had a reoccurrence, or whatever, you're here today. And I try to remind them of that. But you're here today.
No, I thought that was so interesting when you brought that up, when you talked about that and how, is that something that you learned is that through CRS training?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As a nurse, I never knew that. As a nurse, I knew I had to keep a stoic face and couldn't show tears. And if I felt it was coming, I'd have to walk out of the room and go into the med room and cry.
Because the thing about that just sort of kind of clicked with me is that then you are making them like a victim.
You are.
In a way. And it's almost like, and I understand that. And I could just go down a total rabbit hole here with you on my experience with that, losing my father at a young age and feeling that was sort of what was kind of happening.
Yeah.
It's like I'm this victim.
Right.
And I remember I had all this anger,
People were poor you.
And I had all this anger, but then I also was almost, and that I'm saying this, that almost taught to be that way too. And I was angry and I didn't realize until I was an adult, i.e. like the last 2 years going to therapy on a regular basis, that's where a lot of my anger comes from. Cause I'm like, I wasn't a victim.
Right.
I wasn't a victim. And I'm not saying this to downplay, yes, if I could do anything to have my dad back, I would, but that's just not the way that life works, right? It was so infuriating to me that everybody wanted to know how I feel, but they didn't really want to listen to how I feel. And I wasn't in therapy. it was like I was totally a mess.
I can relate to that.
Yep,
and it's too. This thing where it's like, no, you're not helping. You're making me want to sit around and cry all the time and crawl into a hole on Father's Day, on his birthday, on the anniversary of him dying, on Christmas. You're always going to find a day to find a reason instead of climbing out of the hole and thinking, that's not what he would want for me. He wouldn't want me to, yes, I can be sad and yes, you can grieve and you can have moments, but At what point are you going to be like, okay, if I'm doing something, I'm doing it and I'm moving forward now.
Forward.
Yep.
It's like a forward motion thing, right? So that just like totally just clicked in my brain as we were sitting here talking about. So thank you for that. And I think that's important, right?
Can I ask, do you still do therapy?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big believer. I call it my tune-ups.
Yeah.
When
yeah.
I get in a funk and don't know why, call my therapist, get me an appointment.
I talk to her weekly, once a week. And then I will, in some weeks, it's like we just have our sessions. And then there's weeks where I'm sending her voice memos and she's responding. And she responds to messages and stuff. She's like, if you need me, send me a message, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been days where I'm like, are you free?
Yeah.
Are you available today?
That's my people.
Right now, like, are you? And she really steps up to the plate. But it's interesting because I had tried therapy before. And I remember the first time I ever tried it, I was in my 20s. And I just sat in this woman's office and just cried and talked. And she just sat there and like nodded and took notes. And then she's like, okay, that's our time. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You got to find the right one.
I thought, yeah, you got to find the right one. But I also thought that I was supposed to go in there and talk about all the crazy stuff and cry because I wanted instant gratification.
Relief.
No one explained to me that this is going to take, just come in and talk. So then when I found mine now, and I've had different ones in between that time period, but when I found Whitney, my current therapist, the first couple sessions, I was like, I feel like I just like talked to her like she was a friend.
To Whitney.
We had an
Shout
episode
out.
together. This one goes out to Whitney. Hey, Whitney, thank you for everything that you do. No.
Right.
Sorry. So yes, that really clicked with me. So harm reduction. Jessica, do you want to talk a little bit about the harm reduction? I know that's under CRS, but like I want to flip back
She
and forth.
knows it.
No, absolutely. So Mary is our biggest advocate of Narcan,
Yes,
which is
ma'am.
our harm reduction, the
queen.
biggest thing of harm reduction that we do. Oh, absolutely.
queen.
Oh, yeah. She has given everybody the I Carry Narcan badges.
That's right.
But harm reduction is important, right? So we want to get the Narcan out there. We want to get the xylazine test strips and the fentanyl test strips out there. It saves lives. You know, we get a lot of pushback, especially from just general public, because they don't know. They think we're supporting them using, and that is not the case. You know, I know there's a lot of stigma around it. Like, 100%, I tell everybody, it's not about enabling them. We're not enablers.
At all.
We want to save their lives. You never know when somebody's going to get it.
Until they get it.
They don't. You don't know until they get it, right? I mean, my stepsister was Narcaned 4 times in one night and went to the hospital. Was in the hospital for a week and got out. And finally, she was like, "I'm ready to go to rehab." Like it was her time to go.
Mm-hmm.
So she, it took her a lot, but thank God that they had Narcan there. And then she could go to rehab and it saved her life.
Right.
And you never know when somebody's going to get it. And they don't,
Right.
sometimes they don't know what's in their drugs, right? You think you're just going to do some heroin, but there's fentanyl or xylazine in it. And that's why we do the test strips, because it'll tell you if there's xylazine in it or if there's fentanyl in it. And maybe you'll pause and think, do I really want to do this?
Am I willing to die
Well,
or
that
take that risk?
that's something I did want to touch on because I've talked to many people about this.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't really gotten into it yet on an episode, and it really just is that you cannot force someone to not abuse substances.
No.
Right.
You can't tell them that life is worth living and
No.
they've got everything. It just doesn't work. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. You can't just say it's almost like there's an anxiety.
Absolutely.
Behind. Think of anyone who's listening. Have you ever had that day where you're just like anxious and stressed out and something happens at work and you're like, oh, I can't wait to go home and have a glass of wine. That's the negative connotation behind drinking. And they also say if you start to do it by yourself, right? So it's this thing where trust me, I've been there. I've done that where the first thing I do is, man, I used to get those box wines, and I would just like, just fill it up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the minute I took a few sips, it's like I was able to calm myself down.
Right.
So when you're going through recovery and rehab, you are literally completely retraining, like your
brain's fractured.
everything is being retrained. So you're not having those initial reactions.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, it's like, we're going to provide these test strips for people, because if someone legitimately is like, I'm not going to stop doing heroin, you at least want to be like, okay, but just please make sure that there's not like fentanyl. Can you just use these test strips and just
right. Well, and not
if
only
you
that,
can
but
do one little thing, right, to try to enforce something positive. I mean, that's
absolutely. And if they take that second to sit down and test it, and it is positive, it'll give them the thought.
They will pause.
And maybe that pause will be long enough for them to say, I'm not going to do this right now. Or sometimes they do it anyway, but then they know what's in their system. So if they overdose or have to go to the hospital, they can say, well, I did this and I did test it and there was fentanyl in it, or there was xylazine in it. And then at least the first responders or anybody at the hospital knows exactly what was in their system and can appropriately help.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's knowledge is power. But when we're talking about, substance abuse and anyone who is in a period of not being able to, I don't know why I'm like, whenever someone is in a place of they don't want to go to rehab, they don't want to stop using.
Yeah.
Maybe they think that the way that everything is in their life is this just the way it's going to be.
Right.
This is just the way it is, and
Right.
and I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it does take, like you said, maybe it takes something like that to, be in the hospital for a week and realizing like they had to administer Narcan 4 times in order for me to come back to
Right.
be here. And then the hospitalization. And sometimes it takes moments like that for people to realize like they have to be the ones to do it. So sorry, I'm up on a soapbox right now talking about, but there's just so many people that are so resistant to still, even though we're talking about it, to Narcan and to test strips. Yes, they're like, you're enabling. It's like, no, you're not. I'm not forcing this person to do it. They're going to do it regardless. It's like,
They will do it regardless. I'm just trying to save their life in the process.
Right.
It's almost, and I'm going to say this really quickly, it's almost like legalizing marijuana and having distributors.
Right.
Then at least they're not getting it somewhere else. And who knows
Right.
what.
Bored in Butler County? Need to know where to catch a show this weekend? What events are even happening in the area? I'm Molly Miller, one of the writers behind the Butler Eagles Weekend Entertainment section, and I'm here to banish the boredom from your cold and rainy days. Sign up and receive Miller Minutes. That's my column, and a list of Butler County-based events direct to your inbox every Thursday afternoon by visiting bit.ly/ButlerEagleWE newsletter. That's bit.ly/ButlerEagleWE newsletter. You can also find the latest events under the A&E tab at www.butlereagle.com. Click Weekend Entertainment, or pick up Thursday's print edition of the paper for the latest events. See, there's lots to do in Butler County when you read the Butler Eagles Weekend Entertainment section. Visit bit.ly/ButlerEagleWE newsletter to sign up for the weekly newsletter, so you won't be bored in Butler County again.
And we do have education. So Mary does trainings
Right.
with Butler Succeed. Quarterly. And
Yes.
everybody is welcome to those trainings.
Right.
And you have some coming up, right? This summer, don't you? Do you have some coming up?
Oh, we have Narcan drives
We have
monthly.
Narcan drives
That's what you're
monthly.
thinking.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking about. Okay, yes.
The monthly Narcan drives, and you can always stop in the office.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We are in the office at least every Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay.
And you can always stop in
In the
and grab
Butler
some.
office Tuesday and Thursday.
In the Butler
Yes.
office
Yes.
Tuesday and
We're in
Thursday.
the
Okay.
other offices.
Okay.
Yes.
Where's your Butler office located at again?
It's on Hanson Avenue
Okay.
in Lindora.
Handsome Plaza.
Okay, in Lindora.
Yes.
Okay.
Blue
Yes.
building. Yep.
Okay, yeah. It's that. If you we're pointing, everybody's like yeah, so Lindora is that way. My mom always said I had a compass on the end of my nose. When I was a kid, we would go somewhere and then I'd be like, wait, we're supposed to turn here. And she'd like look at my dad and she'd be like, we were supposed to turn there. I'm like, hello, everybody. And the fact that as an adult, which terrified her, I would just be like, okay, I'm getting in my car and going here. And she's like, what? And I'm like, do. Anyways. And yeah, the Narcan, I don't care. Just carry it. Just like, what is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just carry it.
Just carry
That
it.
big.
It's literally, yeah. I don't know. That's just me. So I want to get into then xylazine.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about like, what are some of so when someone's doing opioids, for instance, there's a lot of telltale signs you can tell if someone's on an opioid, right? Just based off of like
Right.
their eyes, right?
Right.
That's a big one.
Same thing with the xylazine.
Okay, so is it dilated or are they
They can be
pinholes
Yes.
typically?
Yes.
Okay.
but
That's pretty common though.
well, it depends on if they have anything else in their system. We don't know.
Okay.
So, but here's the telltale signs. The speech is slurred.
Okay.
The gait is very unstable.
Okay.
Their motor skills are not normal. You can definitely tell. It's called trank on the streets or the zombie drug. Excuse me. And those are things to watch for. Heavy eyelids.
So xylazine is a sedative. So when you have a sedative, right, you're thinking sleepy.
Yeah.
So they're slowed down the heavy eyelids because they want to go to sleep. You're
Right.
slow, you're relaxed. Depending on how much is in there, you will go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just comparing it to opioids and like
It starts out that way.
you know, I was wondering what are things that if someone sees someone now, if you go online and you look up on YouTube, Preston Park on YouTube, you can actually see videos of people who are
Absolutely.
and they are standing and like
Bent over.
bent over,
Yeah.
almost like hanging,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
just sort of, yeah. And there's like a swaying, and it's just honestly, it's one of the saddest. How did this person get to this point? And
There-
what do you do in that instance? So if someone were to see someone on the street like that, most people are going to call 911, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the best thing to do. That's kind of the only thing to do.
Right.
Right.
You
If they're
can't.
standing up, yes.
But even seeing someone, you know, I do like that we're changing. And listen, I sat down with Bo Snedden, the warden of the jail. I sat down with Matt Clancy, who's the reentry coordinator, and what they're doing. They're like trying so hard to do everything that they can when people are leaving jail. They really are. I mean,
Absolutely.
they have one apartment right now that they can actually put someone in to help them reacclimate into society. It gives them a certain time period. And then they got to move out, and then they put someone else in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a perfect world, we'd have 300 of those, right?
Right.
Spread all out, because statistically, I'd say maybe not putting everyone in one building all together
Not a
at
good
the same
idea.
time. That's not a good idea, right?
Right.
But it's hard for people who are coming back out into the community. And what's really amazing about your MAT treatment, I know I'm adding a T onto that, but that's what it is. It's treatment. Is those are the people who are like, I can't go to rehab. I can't go to jail. Or maybe they've been in jail and they're like, I can't go back to jail. I need to be making money, providing for my family. I've got to pick my kids up. I've got to be able to.
And we see that.
Yeah, I've got to be. Yes, exactly. So I've got to be able to. So what would you say to someone who maybe is kind of out there? What you have seen from that? And we talked about it a little bit, like the percentage of people, but what would you say to someone who's like, I know I need to get help, but I don't have the time, like to really hone in on Matt?
Well, the
Medical
first thing,
assistant.
we can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
you have to be selfish in
Be
recovery.
selfish. Absolutely.
Mary tells everybody,
I
be
preach.
selfish in
Be
recovery.
selfish.
You need that hour to yourself to get it
Yes.
together. If that
Yes.
hour is coming into our office and getting treatment, make it a priority.
Absolutely.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is really one of those things where they, like you said, yes. But if you're like, listen, it's totally worth it. It's going to help you through this period of recovery, but you're also going to be able to continue doing what you're doing.
right.
Right.
And we praise them throughout the entire thing. We praise them for what they're doing
Yeah.
and commend them on what improvement we've seen.
Yeah.
We tell them constantly, and I tell staff constantly, tell them from the time they hit that door, whether they're having a bad day or not, how good they look. People, they don't get that on the outside world.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
How long's it been since someone told them, and maybe they're still struggling, but they're there. They're there to get the treatment. Tell them, make them feel good about themselves. They will remember that. What we made them feel, they'll remember.
And that's 100% accurate. So we're starting this new thing at Trilogy where we're asking patients for their testimonials. And we're getting patient testimonials to put up on our website or our Facebook page. We literally launched this on Friday. Today is Monday.
Yes.
And we already have 2. We have
That's awesome.
2 patients that came forward just to say how great our staff are and how much they love coming in because they get that.
Yeah.
They get that reassurance that it's worth it and they're there for a good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important.
It is.
And for them to also be able to use their voices is important, right? You're giving them that opportunity.
They have that freedom. Absolutely.
Yeah. So statistics of your patients. You were mentioning that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So a lot of our patients come in for opioid use disorder.
Right.
I would say the majority of our patients have opioid use disorder. We do have some patients, a small percentage, that have alcohol use disorder, and we do help with alcohol use disorder as well. They get the same. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Cute Jess. Look at her.
Yeah. I know. She's like super polite. I'm probably like,
She is. I'm like hacking over here.
yeah. Have some water.
Have some water.
Start it over.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no rush.
Like I just start talking. I get to talk and I talk too fast.
No, you're good.
No.
I was like, I made little notes over here for myself.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay. That's what I was getting to with that. So most patients have opioid use disorder.
Okay.
We do see some patients come in with alcohol use disorder, which we do treat as well, but that is growing. So we are seeing more and more patients
lot.
coming in with alcohol use disorder or both opioid and alcohol use disorder. So we treat both of those with our MAT.
Right.
And we have a lot of patients, about 30% of our patients are on an injectable. So whether that's the Sublocade, Brixadi, Vivitrol, they're monthly injections so that people can continue living their lives. You know, they can go to work every day, they can pick their kids up from school, whatever they need to do to sustain their recovery and then get that monthly injection.
Pop in and get their injection and be on their way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people started because of pills.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now that's something I think that we're far too familiar with, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Nobody woke up and said, I want to be an addict today.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Can you ever imagine someone wanting to be, they call it dope sick. Can you imagine feeling like you're dying? Nobody.
Yes, we've we've touched on that, and I think that's one of the things that really starts to kind of get my gears grinding whenever someone is referred to as an addict or, oh, they were all drugged up and this and that. I'm like, okay, pause.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's just take a big old pause
Right.
and go back and look at, well, how did they get there? Something happened.
Yes.
And so maybe it was, you're talking to someone who's had some pretty significant like spinal stuff going on.
Yeah.
To the point where my neck was so bad, and I was working in fitness. So physically, my entire life, I had to rely on my body to work and to,
Absolutely.
survive. That was I couldn't be in a kickball league because I had to be able to, I couldn't get injured. So whenever you have an injury like that, which keeps you from doing your job, not only did the physical activity completely stop because I was in so much pain, but the first thing the doctor gave me was 2 bottles of pills.
Absolutely.
Now, one of them was only ibuprofen, but still it was like 800 milligrams 3 times a day, and then gabapentin. And that was the one that really messed with me because it was a nerve blocker, which is what I had, like a stretched nerve, but I had a disc just sitting on this main nerve. Like I'm talking, I couldn't move my head. I couldn't put my head back at all. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. My arm was going numb. It was awful. And I was in excruciating pain. But I'm telling you what, if someone had started giving me Oxy and I took it and it took care of that pain, I would have been taking that every day.
Absolutely.
And then we might not be having this conversation right now.
And that's what happened.
And that's what happens. And that's what people don't understand, because after a while, right, you start to get, your body grows tolerant of the dosage that you're
Right.
taking. So then like, okay, well, we'll take 2 now or take this.
Right.
Yeah.
I watched that show on Hulu with Michael Keaton. Best Batman, by the way. Just going to side note there. But anyways, he was in that Dope Sick.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was,
Is that not sad?
it was so sad. I had to watch the whole thing, but just these reps are going in there and they're just like, you're going to be rich, you're going to be this. And I'm like,
right.
at a big cost, people's lives.
Absolutely.
So they're coming out with a new pill and it has this and that. And the whole time just saying that it's not addictive. And I'm like,
The
what?
whole time.
The whole time. And people were starting to notice, they're like, but it is.
It
Oh,
is.
no. It's like, but it is. These are people taking it and this is what's happening.
Yep.
And the
And
people
then-
that fought it, like, I just,
When they got cut off, what choice did they have?
But it's a progression.
they had to go to the street.
Yeah.
They had
absolutely.
to. They had to.
They had no other option.
Absolutely.
You
And
go
that's
to
what
one,
people don't understand.
Right.
That's
it's
it.
It's that right there.
You
They
go
don't
to-
understand that.
So you start out at one doctor, right? He gives you oxys. You go to another doctor, they give you Vicodin, and they call it doctor hopping. So you try the doctor hopping for a while, and they're like, no more, you're done. Well, then you might find some pain clinics to go to, and the pain clinics will give you more. And you might even get a fentanyl patch at the pain clinic for your pain. They'll do fentanyl patches, and that is very high opioids. That's going to take your pain away, but at what cost, right? And then you have your fentanyl patches, and you need more, and you need more, and then they cut you off. You have no option. Your pain tolerance is now
Right.
that of a newborn baby because
Right.
you can no longer tolerate
Absolutely.
pain because you've ignored it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no option. You're in so much pain over the smallest thing.
You'll do anything. You'll do anything.
Absolutely.
And that's go to the streets.
And that's where people are really, they're making the choice. Stop saying that. Stop saying that. At
It's
that
not a
point,
choice.
it's not a choice. It's
not a
literally the
choice.
only way they can survive.
That's it.
Yeah.
Unless you have had excruciating pain in your lifetime to where you're like, you can't do everyday things.
Right.
Sleep, eat, driving. I mean, I remember driving my car,
Bathing.
like bathing. Oh, anything, like literally anything. People would, after that, even after my recovery in that year, and I mean, I had to go through a lot of different avenues too. I had to do acupuncture, I had to do physical therapy, like intense physical therapy. I had to get traction neck, like work done on my neck, like crazy
Wow.
stuff. And I just feel very, very fortunate that I didn't have a doctor who, but on the other side of it that was the first thing that they went to. And I'm like, whoa, there's something causing this. And I want to figure out what's causing it so we can fix it. So I can like get back to feeling like I can live life and not just like my job, but just like life in general.
Right.
I wasn't able to I couldn't put a backpack on. I remember that. I remember not being able to carry bags because I couldn't put anything on either one of my shoulders. I mean, it was like to the point where it was crazy. So anyways, I keep doing this, but that's the thing. That's where it starts, right? Is with pills. And then insurance is also a barrier that people aren't really discussing.
Absolutely.
There are definitely times where people can't get the medicine that they need.
Because of insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of insurances choose which medications they want to pay for, what's on their formulary, and that's what they're going to cover. And a lot of the injectables are new. Brixadi is very new. It just
Very
came
new.
out a couple months ago, and Sublocade is a couple years old, but they're still very new in comparison to Suboxone.
Right.
And there are still insurance companies that will refuse to pay for the injection, even though the injection has shown significant results. We have patients that have been on the injection and they can wean off altogether, or they can have months without needing an injection and still sustain their recovery.
Right.
And yet the insurance still will refuse to pay
Right.
for it, regardless of what prior authorization we put in, regardless of how many overrides we
The
ask for.
documentation the
doc-
doctors do. Yeah.
Absolutely. The documentation, they'll still refuse. I know of patients off the top of my head right now that cannot get the injection because their insurance won't cover it.
Right.
And then they still have to take Suboxone every day. And it's harder to wean off of.
Well, not only that, but the other thing is when you're giving them an injection, it's not something they have to add to their list of to-dos every day.
Right.
They don't have to remember to
Take it and go.
Take it. Exactly.
So with the Suboxone is what they would have to take every day. And that's a pill, or
Yes.
it's a pill.
So there's
Okay.
tablets or films. It comes
Okay.
in both.
Okay. And that's interesting because I've I'm wondering, like, what is the barrier there?
With the insurance company?
Especially with the one that's been around for a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the barrier?
I think it's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive.
And Suboxone is easier. Suboxone is the brand name. That's what everybody knows it by. But most people don't actually get a brand name prescription at the pharmacy. They get buprenorphine naloxone.
Okay.
That's the generic.
Okay.
And that's what the insurance company will pay for, is the generic version.
So what are the statistics, or are there any, behind the difference between someone that's like taking that pill every day or the film to someone who's getting a shot once a month or once every 5 or 6 weeks, or, and then slowly weaning off? There's a greater success rate with that, isn't there? So it's interesting to me, because why would they want to eventually, like, if they're going to have to pay for this person to take this pill for a couple years? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it works really, like the whole process as far as like how long is someone on that. The point is to get them to recovery to where they're not relying on anything. Or
It's different.
It's different for everybody.
Everybody is different.
We have patients that are on Suboxone, and they may be on Suboxone for the rest of their life.
Okay.
And that is completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a diabetic needing their insulin for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
No different.
yes.
We have some patients that they don't want to have to remember to take medication every day. Maybe they're not a fan of taking medication every day.
Right.
And they don't remember. So if you don't remember to take your meds, you don't feel so great. So those folks might switch to the injection. And then eventually it's easier to wean off of the injection because it stays in your system so long. You can have Sublocade, maybe for 6, 8, 10 months, and it'll still be in your system. A year later, you'll be able to find traces.
You'll find it, yeah.
Wow.
Which is why
Wow.
yes. Which is why it's so easy to walk off of it.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's slowly coming out of your system. And we have had patients that, after a year, they come back and they say, I think I need one more. And they ride that one out.
Yeah.
And it's all about, you have to know your body. How are you feeling? What do you need?
And the mental part too.
Absolutely.
You got to remember.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking too. When you start to get in a habit of doing something, right? You get in a habit of doing
You
it.
do.
Absolutely.
And then it almost becomes like you're like, wait, am I forgetting something?
Right.
Yes.
Right? So
Right.
that's part of what I'm feeling with this. That not a negative connotation. If they've got to take it for the rest of their life and that's what keeps them going and that's what keeps them in recovery and alive, and then you know what? Rock on. Like, do
Right.
your thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So sorry if I had any ignorance on that. I was like, I don't know, but I wasn't sure. But it is sort of this like, why are we making it so difficult on people when it's already hard enough?
Absolutely.
Talking about your, if you have ever encountered someone where you have to educate them.
Absolutely. Almost daily. I'll have people that know what I do will ask me questions, and what they think is totally off the wall.
Okay.
I think it happens a lot with family too.
Oh, it absolutely
So
does.
like with extended family, especially when we're at family gatherings, and I say that just because I had a family gathering this past weekend.
Okay.
And people will be like, well, why do you do that? Or, they'll ask questions. Oh, why do you give out so much Narcan? Why would you give it away for free? To save people's lives. Which,
right.
and I think so my close family, we have a lot of addiction experience, but my extended family, I feel like they knew about the problems that were occurring, but they don't really know about recovery. They don't really know about substance use disorder. So I think whenever you're in that kind of atmosphere with family or friends and they feel they can talk to you freely is when I get the most questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, I think having people ask you questions, that's amazing. I love that. What sort of bothers me is when you're having a conversation with someone, especially when it comes to stigma, and you try to explain how, powerful our words are.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said something earlier about, when you say positive things to people, they might not in the long run remember exactly what you said, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. Everybody always
Absolutely.
remembers how you made them
The
feel.
feeling.
And that is a very powerful tool that we
Right.
all, need to be using more of when we are talking about substance abuse and people in recovery, and really being mindful of that. And that's the biggest hurdle right now, is just that in itself.
Absolutely.
It's how we're talking about.
Laura, at
people.
what point did we decide that someone that has a substance use disorder is not human? Who
Yeah.
at what point, and how do we come to that conclusion that we would just let them lay there instead of help them? At what point did we say, if we've got a medication that could save their lives, I'm not giving that, I'm not taking that, I wouldn't use that? How did we become those people? I could not walk past someone and not try to save their life.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
It takes time.
It's going to take time.
Right.
And letting people know that is part of the process, right?
We have to stop this. This has gotten out of hand. And when I leave this earth, I want people to remember, if not my name, that I did everything I could do to save lives. Everything.
I would say get help. Walk
Yeah.
in the door, and we will do whatever we have to do.
Absolutely.
If you don't know that we accept your insurance, we'll find out. If we don't accept your insurance, I will make sure that we do. There has been plenty of patients that have come in
She's
the
done
door.
it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there have been people that come in the door, and I have never heard of their insurance plan in my life. But I research it, and I get us credentialed with it. I
Right.
make sure that we can take their insurance. I will do anything that I can do to get you into treatment, anything that I can to make sure that you're safe and you can see the provider as often as you need to.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Alter Eagle. Join me every Monday for a new episode, and be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram at Alter Eagle Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.